basketball. We're here to talk to Katrina Manetta, who is running for the state house in Michigan. She is a candidate for District 58 in Utica, which I'll be honest, I think it's Metro Detroit, right? Is that area?
Yep,
Um,
you got it. Yep. Yep.
okay, cool. So yeah, really excited. I what I do is I started a website a little while ago where I was basically looking for every swing seat in a lot of important states, and 58 is one of them. And looking at who the candidates are, and just trying to give people like an idea of what's going on, because it can be so difficult to like drill down into that kind of stuff. And saw your campaign, and I was like, wow, we should. I talked to the candidates a lot, and I was like, we should get her on. So I'm excited that you're here.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, I think it's so important that we're paying attention to what's happening at the state level because there's so much happening at the federal level right now that most of us feel like we cannot impact, but we can impact it at the state level. So I appreciate all the work that you're doing. And I saw some donations come in through, putting us on that list. And so I really appreciate it. And that's been really nice. And yeah, so my name is Katrina Manetta. I'm running in Michigan's 58th House District, which is Shelby Township, Utica, Sterling Heights, and Warren in Macomb County, which is one of the tri-county areas of Metro Detroit. So it's like 40 minutes north of Detroit. And it's a very unique area here. It used to be a very Democratic area, and then in the 80s, it started leaning to go more towards the right, mostly because a lot of auto workers live here and have felt left behind from the Democratic Party for a very long time and kind of fell into the economic populism and anti establishment politics. And so we're here to bring that back and to listen to people and to make sure that they are not left behind because I don't think anyone's happy with either of the political parties right now, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on. It's just all of us are being left behind,
Yeah.
especially if we're in the middle class. So.
Yeah. No, 100%. It's Michigan. That's definitely the story of Michigan, right? Like, it used to be solid blue and auto workers, and people who you think like were such a big part of the Democratic coalition are now up for grabs, and because no one is fighting for them really, for the most part. I know that the seat you're in has flipped a bunch. Right? There's a first term Republican in there. There's a Democrat in there before then. But I want to learn a little bit about your background. You're an organizer and a server. So tell me about let's start with the organizer part. Because especially like you said, you got to kind of revive the I guess the economic populism from the left, or whatever you want to call it. So tell me about how you got involved in doing that.
Mhm. Okay, so my background is sociology. That's what I went to school for. So I'm 32 years old. I'm young. But starts. But then I didn't do anything with it because what do you do with a sociology degree? It was either research or social work, and neither of the two interested me. So I was kind of left out there winging it. I went into real estate, and then I went through like a really rough patch. And so I lost my dad, my sister, and a boyfriend in 4 years' time.
Oh,
It was really, really tough, to say the least. In between then, and there I was serving tables, trying to figure out what do I do with my life now. And of course, when you lose a bunch of people and are serving tables, you've got a bunch of time on your hands. So what does one do is I guess they read the news. And that's what I
never
did. I
fun
was
though.
reading the news and I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea what was going on in the world, but what's going on is not good. Like, we're in a really bad place. I was informed about Project 2025, so I started reading a little bit of that and was really concerned about the direction the country was going, especially with my sociology degree, because we study, political ideology. So I started getting online and I shared with my friends and family what was happening. And then the 2024 election happened and was devastated and knew that like we had to do something local. We had to organize locally, especially in this area, because I know Macomb County, like I said, like we said, it could be flipped. So we had to like start a movement here. We had to start shifting the culture in Macomb County. And that's exactly what we did. We started with um, 5 women basically that I found at going to another meeting, another organizers group group, and they lived in this area, and we met at a coffee shop, and then the next week, we had 11 people in my basement, and the week after that, there was 100 people on our list, and now we're at over 1,500 people a year and a half later. So, I mean, part of that is just really making sure that I was listening and paying attention to what was on people's minds, and then organizing around that. So, making sure that we were addressing everyone's concerns right away and just taking action, which I don't think you're seeing a lot of politicians, public servants in either party really, they're not like taking that action. So when somebody steps up in the community to like show there's people listening and doing something, it's really taken ground and created the movement that we wanted to
Yeah.
create here.
I mean, it's sort of remarkable to think about, no one was doing anything, right? And then you guys, a few of you come together and you start a thing and people want to be a part of it and they want to get involved. There's just no one's doing it, right? And so kind of shows you how much
Yeah.
potential that there is there, but like how it was allowed to like fallow, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too, like I said, people are disappointed with both parties right now, and that is true across the board. And so because our organization does not come from the party, it exists to push the parties. I think that also resonated with people because they knew they weren't joining some sort of like establishment. They were joining something that existed in a like to push, like I said, to actually create the change that they were looking to have happen. And then feel like they were actually part of it, like they had a say and that they could see the results of their action. So giving people that outlet has created, you know, a movement here now in Macomb County.
So what have you guys focused on the last bunch of years? People wanted to get action on and you went and did or focused on.
Yeah, so a couple of like really big wins that we had was when the federal government cut the SNAP benefits. We stepped up and created a resource for um, the Tri County area, Metro Detroit, online, which was a click, how do you say it? Clickable map, right? So you could, it was, instead of just a list of um, sources. It was a map, so people could actually find the food closest to their house, and then it had all the details. It's a really great resource. It's still up there on our website. And then when there's a city here called Centerline, they almost passed a 287G agreement, which is an agreement to deputize the local police force as federal enforcement. ICE operations, which would be taking away resources from Center line, and community policing away and moving it towards immigration, which would make our residents less safe here. And so we stepped up as a community. We showed up in big numbers, and we inundated the meeting, the town hall meeting, or not the town hall, the city council meeting, and they reversed the signing, so they got rid of that agreement. So those are some of the wins we've had, but we've done the No Kings protests here in Macomb County and in Detroit because we believe that organizing is more than just your own backyard. Um, we've also done things like press conferences and, making sure our neighbors knew what was happening with the big ugly bill, and we've done a voter's guide. So we just have constant resources and community for people to get involved and find different ways that work for them.
Have you found that
And
people
now
oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
oh, no, I was gonna say now we have a 20 something person leadership team and over 6 subcommittees.
Wow.
So it has really grown beyond like, I don't always even know what's going on anymore because it's just gotten to be this big, like, hub of interesting things that are happening in the community.
Well, that's awesome, and you talk about people feeling left behind by both political parties. Did you get the sense that I don't know how Macomb County voted in 2024, but, like, there's, an awakening since then? Are people, pissed off about what's going on? Obviously, they're pissed about both parties, but kinda what's happened since then?
Yeah, so I obviously I'm campaigning now, and so not only do I talk to the people in my organization but they are pissed off. I mean, they are so upset with what is happening. I find it so funny because I'll call and I'll say, "What is the biggest concern for you this election cycle?" And they're like, "Oh my god, I don't even know where to start." And that is genuinely the answer that I get almost every single time, right, on the doors too. It's like, I don't even know where to start. I'm just everything is going wrong." And so you can definitely feel that there's a shift and there's a frustration, um, with what's happening.
Yeah, are there, Michigan again, like very, um, you know, state has Democratic governor and Senate, Republican House. Not a ton has gotten done in the last bunch of years because of that. Now, I'm curious, like, are there issues that, and we think about national issues, we think about state issues, which I want to talk to you about, but like really local stuff, whether it's data centers or school stuff, are the things that you got that you've really focused on while you're in organizing your stuff you want to focus on?
So, yeah, in my campaign, we're really focused the number one issue that people are concerned about. And one big issue here in Michigan is we have a monopoly utility company issue, right? So, um, our rates have been consistently raised. So, DTE is the big uh, electric company here, and they do a little bit of gas too. But DTE has raised our rates three times in 1.5 years. And then Consumers is the gas company, or, you get either one of the two or both. And Consumers just had their rate freeze lifted, and as soon as it lifted, they asked for another rate hike. So they consistently are raising our rates, but we're getting horrible service. We have some of the worst service in the nation. And so I company is quality
Losing you there
services
a
and
little bit.
I'm sorry.
I was just losing you a little bit there with the connection is a little bit off, but you're
Oh,
good now.
okay, good. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I just spoke with a business the other day, and they paid $4,500 in 1 month for electricity.
Wow.
And it's not like a huge building, right? It's a bigger building, but it's not like some big factory or something.
Yeah.
It's an unacceptable amount. So we can do a rate freeze. The legislature has that ability for 2-3 years until they get better service to us. And then I also think that we could do better reimbursement for when services go out. Because when you think about it, if your electricity goes out in the middle of summer, you might lose all your groceries in your fridge. Who's replacing that?
Right.
I mean, that could be hundreds of dollars that you're out now. So I think we need to have these companies, make sure they're reimbursing us when their services aren't up to par.
I know that they have a lot of political influence also, and then in Michigan, I haven't checked on it super recently, but then there was a ballot initiative or a push for ballot initiative to ban them from spending on political, because if you can avoid their political spending, maybe there'll be lawmakers who are much more okay with regulating them. So I don't know if that's still going on or what you thought about
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, no, I'm in full support of it. It's the Mop Up Michigan Ballot Initiative. Our organization has been in support of it. I am in support of it. They just made the ballot. Well, they got enough signatures. I think it's over 500,000 signatures that they got. And now they're, making sure they go through the right processes to make it on the ballot to be a vote. I have pledged to take no utility money, and on that note, no corporate PAC money either. But yeah, that's one reform, and I think that messaging of no corporate PAC money is really resonating with voters here because they're just sick of like these monopoly utility companies. They're sick of corporations that are coming in and making all the money while we keep getting less and less of the pie. So, that messaging, when I tell people I do not accept corporate PAC money on the doors, they light up and they're like, "I'm so excited," because they're just sick of the corruption. They're sick of somebody makes a promise and then they get into office and do something else, and we know that it's because they're being written a check. And that's, who most politicians these days are beholden to. is
Yep.
whoever's writing the biggest check.
I wanna ask you a bit more about that, but, the other part of your background is you've been a server for a long time, and one thing I would like to do is, try and help and try and promote, like, people from all different backgrounds, especially, working class, backgrounds, working class, even just jobs. People have actually worked for a living, to run for office
Mhm.
because that is all too rare. So I'm curious about, that how that's kinda informed your politics.
Well, like I said, I'm 32, I live at home with my mom, can't afford a home, just went to pay my gas today. It's so funny, they just ran an attack ad against me saying that I mean, I guess it's good. When
Congratulations.
you get an attack ad against you, it means that you're doing something right, right? Prices of gas, and I'm dying because 'cause I'm at the gas station, like, my gas bill is more than it's ever been, and I'm, like, struggling, right? I'm trying to run this campaign full time, like, this is hard. Um, and you understand once you start like, now that I'm running for office, I'm like, "Wow, I understand why so many, like, older folks run and why so many rich people run," because it's kind of a privilege to be able to I mean, this takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, um, and so you start to understand why politics is the way it is because most of the people that are representing us don't actually represent us, they represent a class that can actually afford to take off months at a time.
Right.
I'm lucky, know, to be in a position where I live with my mom, so she's helping me out, but it's not easy. She's also I mean, she doesn't, make a lot of money either, right? She's a caretaker for my aunt. My aunt's 5 years old, and so my mom gets a small amount from the state, but, it's tough out here, and I think that background makes me relatable because I know what it's like to actually live, the grind, the daily grind. One job isn't enough for most people anymore. That's not
No,
fair.
no, I mean, this is like my 3rd job. But,
Yeah.
it's something that most people, I guess, lawmakers just haven't had any experience with, or they just haven't had
Mhm,
an experience with it in a long time. They don't know what it's like to pay rent, right? Or they don't know what
mhm,
it's like to, not be able to get a house. And there's something that you wrote on your website, you said they're part of a generation that worked hard, followed the rules, still found stability harder to reach than it should be. Push back when they did. This is just how it is. But it feels like it's kind of a I'm gonna say the lost generation, but it is
mhm.
does feel like there's a new I know housing's now a big deal and it wasn't always politically like there's a new kind of awakening. Do you find that among people like your age, our age? I'm a little bit older than you, but like do you find that there's like a radicalization away?
I mean, I definitely feel like, our generation feels this, like, pressure, like, they feel like almost giving up, and I feel and I would look at houses just for fun, and then, like, I was like, "Okay, that's obtainable," and then, like, as time went on, it just became like, "This is not happening," and there's, like, no pathway for it to happen. Um, so I feel like our generation kind of feels like there's no use here, there's no hope, kind of like, I'm just gonna do live my life. There's no like, I'm not gonna have a retirement. I'm like there's just this feeling that we're gonna be working forever and there's no point. It almost, like, takes away the purpose.
Mhm.
And I think that's why so many people struggle with anxiety and depression these days because they don't see, "How do I actually live the American dream?"
Yeah, you're just sort of grinding to get to the next day.
Mhm. And it's this cycle of, okay, I wake up in the morning, I eat breakfast, I go to work, I come home, I make dinner, I make my lunch for the next day. Like, where is the leisure? Because it's all about like, okay, I'm paying gas. It almost feels like I'm going to work to pay for the gas to get to work. Right? So it's like this endless cycle. Like I'm only doing it to go back to work the next day. Cuz there's no like money left over to enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, it's something, it's something that the mayor here now, Mayor Mamdani, and it's something that like we kind of focused on the last couple of years. Like, it's not just enough to survive. There needs to be, I mean, people say, thrive also, but like this idea that like there should be like a public leisure. There should be a public people should be able to enjoy things. It shouldn't just be like just making rent. It shouldn't just be able, you're just making, the only fun thing you do is like watch Netflix at like 10 o'clock before you pass out.
Mhm. Yeah, I know, we're getting to a point where we just don't have like, almost like we're robots. Like, it's a little bit dystopian, right? It's like, just everyone goes to work, puts their head down, goes home, comes back, and that's like, you know, I it's I've heard so many people say, "Well, when I was your age, we worked hard." And it's like, is that the world that we live in? I mean, this is such a gorgeous, expansive place to be. I mean, when you look outside your window and you see the birds and the trees, it's like, this is such a miraculous place, and what are we doing with it, right? Like, we shouldn't be selling, um, something that's we should be selling a dream and actually being able to attain it, not the other way around. We shouldn't be selling like, "Well, that's just the way it is, so let's just, you know." No, like, the job of public servants is to make our lives better.
Yeah, and on that
Have a
note,
vision.
yeah, and on that note, thinking about, working for a living and public service, not really understanding that. I know when Michigan Republicans took over the House, there was, and I did a story on this at More Perfect Union, so I was pretty in touch with it as it happened. But the people like raised the minimum wage in Michigan, and they did a rollback of that along with some other stuff. And so I'm curious with things like that, like because a bunch of Democrats voted for that. Right, it was not just that's the most disappointing thing. There was plenty of Democrats who voted for that, and so things like that, like where would is that as someone who works, for as a server, like that piss you off? Does that get you going to that sort of thing? Like that sort of thing you want to like fight when you're in office?
I think everyone should have a living wage, and I don't think the minimum wage is a current living wage. You can't live off, a dime. I think too, what happened when, a lot of Democrats voted a certain way, and I think that was because they felt if they voted another way that they would lose their seat, and then they lost their seat anyway. And I think that has to do with public servants being unwilling to stand on principle and stand on values because they're afraid of voters. And we should be representing voters, but it's also our job to communicate with voters. Here's why I'm voting for this. Here's why it's going to make your life better. And here's the values that I stand on. And we're not going to agree on everything, but I'm here to make your life better. And if you're not going to communicate that and stand on your principles and stand on your values, then you shouldn't be a public servant because you're not doing the job that you're there to do. Our job is not only to legislate, it's also to influence. So, and we have to listen. And if people are telling you, I'm struggling on the wages that I'm living on, then why wouldn't you vote for something that would make their lives better? Um, I don't quite understand that, but I think that's because there's money behind it. I think that's because, again, the people that are writing the bigger checks are making the decisions, not the people that they represent.
Yeah. So when did you decide? Because you got involved in politics, you got started reading about. You mentioned probably 2025, and the election happened. You started to get involved. Like, what was the thing that made you say, "All right, I'm going to run. I'm actually going to do it. I'm going to be like, well, I want to be someone that's not just taking corporate checks, and I want to, stand on my values." So when was it? When was that? Was there a eureka moment, or was it just sort of slow come together?
Um, s- so I was asked about a year ago to run, and I said, absolutely not. I'm running this organization. I love what I do. I'm not qualified. Like, that's not happening. And then they kept asking, and it became clear that no one else was going to step up to run for this seat. And the community started asking me, will you run? And I'm the type of person that if no one else is going to do it, then it's going to be me. And so there came a point I had a conversation, and it became clear that if anyone was going to be able to flip this seat, it was me, because I've been doing the work here, and I've been building a movement, and I've been building this area up. And so if no one else had that base, how was it going to flip? Right? This is, it is a lean right district. And so I just knew that I had the base and the ability to do it, and so it became a given at that point, and I'm so now that I'm doing it, it's like, "Oh, this is what I should have been doing all along," because I feel like I finally kind of found my passion, but I also have realized how much support I have and how much, backing I have and just how much people believe in me because of the work we've been doing, and things have because of that, I've earned, a really good reputation that is carrying me through this, campaign, and it's going really well, so we're really excited to be doing this and to, like, be doing the right thing because I knew if I was going to do it, I had to stand on principle and my values, so I knew I could not touch corporate PAC money.
No, I yeah, appreciate that. Like, so when we talk about principles and values, I mean, I think I have a sense of the things you care about. We talked a little bit now, but like
Mhm.
thinking about,
Mhm.
the things that are like non-negotiables to you. What are the I guess your big priorities, both like policy wise, but then just like these are the things I believe in. Like I'm very much in favor of everyone should have healthcare and not pay for it, right? Like, so what are the things that really motivate you?
I mean, healthcare is a big one. I will say that that became, like, one of the hot topic issues last year. I have a sister who, I say my sister passed away. She did not have access to consistent healthcare. And we know when you're in between jobs, you have healthcare, then you don't. You have to switch doctors and this and that, and then you don't go to the doctor. And by the time she went to the doctor, it was too late. She was on stage 4 cancer. So, healthcare to me is a human right, and every person should have access to healthcare. It's not like people get healthcare because they want it. People go to the doctor because they need to be there. That is the only reason
It's not
you're
fun.
on healthcare. So, what is
It's like
that?
not fun to go to the doctor. It's not a thing that people are just
Right,
wasting.
it's not. I know, I don't even understand. It's like, how can you waste healthcare? It's like if you and you know what? To that point, I injured my foot a couple weeks ago, and it was the middle of the night, and I was, like, in excruciating pain, and I'm like, "I have to go to the emergency room because this is so bad. I don't know what I did. Did I break it?" And then I'm like, "I can't go to the emergency room. I have a deductible that's $8,000.
Oof,
If I go to the emergency room, this could cost that I mean, $2,000, $3,000. I don't know where am I gonna come up with $3,000? I don't have that.
yeah.
So, that is a terrifying thing to live in the world's richest nation and wonder if you should go to the doctor if you broke your foot. Now, I was lucky I didn't break my foot. The next day, I went to urgent care, um, but still, urgent care is, like, $100. So, it's still not cheap for somebody, who's sorry, is my I think my internet is kinda being funky right now. Um, but, that's still not cheap. And again, I had to go in. I didn't break my foot, I had tendinitis, but
Okay.
nonetheless, you don't know what it could be. And if I did break it and didn't go in, I could have been injured for years. I know people who injured their elbow or their shoulder, never went in, and they're still having issues to this day.
Yeah.
So healthcare is extremely important to me. I think that we should all have access to healthcare. Um, again, we just see this mass inequality where the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer, and that is I mean, sociology 101, that is unsustainable for society. That's when you start to see radicalism, that's when you start to see a society break down. That's when you start to see the government get bloated with corruption, and that's exactly what's happening. So it's like it's not a mystery why what's happening is happening. The root cause is that we have this gap of the rich being extremely wealthy and the poor being extremely poor. And so, part of that I think is because of policies that have been going on since the 80s, but we've, really eaten away from the middle class. Um, and that's really important to me. We can't, let our middle class go. We have to build that back up if we wanna have a productive, safe, less polarized society. So yeah, go ahead.
No, no, continue. That's a good point.
No, and then, I mean, I was just I guess to add to that, I mean, public safety is super important to me. We need to feel safe in our communities. I know a lot of people feel like right now they can't when I grew up, we didn't lock our doors. We just that was, not a common thing. Like, it was just we felt safe, and I remember walking miles alone as a teenager, but now, like, if my nieces and nephews went without on a walk for miles without a phone, I would be, like, freaking out. So I think that we've lost the sense of safety, and so that's super important to me, and, mental health is super important to me, and then, just, human rights at the end of the day, that's non-negotiable.
Sure. Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned, and I think you're very much right, but, like, as the middle class erodes, there is a radicalism, when as inequality, increases, so does radicalism, and, I know Michigan is a swing state. It used to be much more solid blue, but have you seen that, like, in your community? You mentioned people going to the right when, maybe the auto plant shut down and what have you, so, is it something that's you close?
Yeah, I think that we have seen, I mean, we've seen a lot of people be really mean really mean. And, like, I don't think we didn't grow up with that. There was, like, this kindness that just existed, and you've really seen some people go on the far end and become strangers almost, like, there's no concern for other people, and yeah, it's I mean, there's hate crimes that have happened here. It's just it's not the society that we should be living in. Shouldn't be that way.
And so, their Democrats need to flip a bunch of seats, but there's a chance of a trifecta. And, so let's say you go to Lansing. There's a bunch of bills that they haven't gotten passed through the House, so maybe those would be priority. But what do you want to really focus on? What do you want to work on? I mean, we mentioned obviously wages and stuff, but are there things that you would kind of dive into?
I think one thing that is probably a little bit under talked about that didn't happen in the last trifecta that should have was the Michigan Voters' Rights Act. Um, we, that's something that never got accomplished. Now, what you're seeing with the Supreme Court and in the South, it's becoming ever more increasingly important. If we don't have access to our polls, we do not have a democracy. So I think that that's something that we could really like strengthen up here in Michigan, and it's one of the first things that will be on my mind because we can't let that go. That's unacceptable that it didn't get passed.
Yeah, it was wild, because Democrats had the House and a lot of things didn't happen. And bring it back to your first point. A lot of people are disappointed, right, in Democrats, whether they're federal or local. And so I'm curious what people say to you about it. They find out you're running as a Democrat, and they know you from your activism, so you're not necessarily like tainted with the Democratic brand necessarily. But what do they say about Democrats? And the only way to win them over is by doing things. But where do you see like the big disconnect or
Mhm.
deficit?
I think a lot of people say that Democrats aren't fighting. Um, I personally, I mean, and part of that I think is that what you hear a lot of Democrats say is, "Well, we're not in the majority, so there's nothing we can do." Well, then, maybe we should just not show up at all. I don't understand that logic because you don't expect to always be in the majority. This is a democracy, and that's how this country works, right? It's not we're not a one-party state, and we shouldn't be for for a good reason. So, the job is to get to Lansing and to work across the aisle and to right, my background is organizing. So, organize my colleagues and say, okay, you five people go meet with you three people on the other side and talk to them and find out what is most important to them and their voters in their area. And you five people talk to these three people. And then we're going to come up with a plan that we all can work on together. I get it. We're really divided. It's a really tough time, but we really need to be willing to sit at the table and have these really tough conversations and come up with a plan that's beyond our own party to move things forward. Because if it's just flipping back and forth, it's like we go a little bit this way and then we go two steps back and then we go a little bit this way and two steps back. That's unsustainable. It's not going to work. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked. People are fed up, people are frustrated because nothing's getting done except this, like, fight. Like, can we have adults at the table?
That's a powerful argument. It's got to be frustrating because you vote for somebody and they don't do what you yeah, kinda expecting to do, like, I imagine you probably face a lot of cynicism when it comes to that. People are like, "Are you actually gonna do anything?"
Right, and I think that's again, that's why it comes back to, but where's the money? Because that's what's really happening here is that when they go to Lansing, they have a bunch of donors who donated to their campaign or who are continuously donating to them, and they're saying, "Okay, I wanted to do this, but I can't do that because I owe them a favor." Or they're getting kickbacks, right? So it's just we've we've come to a point where the values are lost because the money is more important, and it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, and, your campaign, obviously, like you said, you're an organizer, so, you have an idea of what your campaign's gonna look like, but, it's a swing district, leans a little right. What is the strategy, along with showing up, which is always the number one thing?
Yeah, I mean, the strategy is to knock doors and have tough conversations. When you're in a face to face conversation with somebody, I think that's how you change hearts and minds. I feel like I can talk to a lot of these voters because I've lived here my whole life. I've grown up here. I understand what the mindset is, and I am of the mind that we are in the most partisan time in a long time. And part of that is because our social media feeds, our news feeds are two different things. But and so it appears to be like we are completely on opposite ends. I think we have more in common than we realize. We just are having two different conversations. And so it's really about getting to the heart of what the issue is. And that's kind of why you'll see people vote for Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. Because there is this appeal, like we talked in the beginning, to an economic populism, because I think that's actually the true issue here. And so, when you actually have that conversation, you realize, oh, you're actually saying the same thing, you're just saying it in different words, or you're actually saying the same thing as me. We just don't quite see how we're going to get there together yet. But I'm always of the mindset that we can find a way as long as we can come to agreement on the one thing in the middle. So, that I hope that wasn't too much word
No.
salad, but yeah, like, there's a lot more in common than we think we have.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's just that, I guess, it's the once the partisanship kicks in, it feels like we're a world apart, but there's a lot of things that, people, whether it's union rights or whether it's like, wages or what access to healthcare, people don't really care that much about the partisanship, but I guess people on both sides of the aisle care the same. They want the same thing.
Yeah, I don't really talk that I'm a Democrat much. Um, I don't, like, advertise it because I don't want people to know me for a party. I want them to know me for what do we connect on? I think it's also, again, like, listening, and part of listening is being curious. So when somebody says something and you're, like, outraged by how could they possibly be thinking that, I think it's important that we ask not just 1 question, not just 2 questions, but, like, 3 or 4 because that's, again, how you kinda get to the heart of like, what's the core thing that they care about here? Because again, I mean, what American doesn't want to live in a country where they can afford their life, have a little bit of time on the weekends, their kids are safe, their families are safe? What American doesn't want that, right? We all want it to be living in a society that is abundant and productive and safe. Um, that's
Yeah.
that's where we can come together on.
Now you mentioned, you mentioned not talking about being a Democrat much, which is very understandable. See where you are. Has the party been helpful? I mean, I know there's a lot of races to win. There's a lot of seats, but you're pretty important districts. So how's just like even infrastructure wise, like how has it been with them?
Yeah, I will say that we have now just gotten news that we are one of the top 10 most flippable seats in the Michigan State House. That is what the Lansing News has declared us. So, our race has been getting quite a bit of attention, and we hope to continue that. Um, the party has been very helpful, which is really humbling and really great to see because I am an outsider and I don't always agree with them. But I think what they've appreciated is, again, my communication and, it's like a two-way street, like, we're learning to trust each other.
Mm.
Um, and I think that, again, that's the type of leadership we need, right? It's not just a given that a relationship can thrive. We have to sit down at the table and say, okay, I'm not going to be beholden to anybody, whether that's money or a party. I'm beholden to the voters in my district and my values. Um, but let's work together because that's the only way we're going to break through and get this job done. And so you need to be willing. I mean, you need to be willing to have tough conversations. Once again, like I said earlier, but also having the experience to navigate um, really fine lines a lot of times, and really tough relationship. It was a narcissistically abusive, um, verbally abusive relationship, and so because of that, I feel like I have gained this skill in being able to walk those lines in a really strategic way.
No, I mean, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm glad that you're able to come out of that. Again, it's like, the life experiences informing how you do politics, is the best case
Mhm.
scenario. I want to ask you, mentioned this early on. You had an attack ad against you, which, one of the 10 most important, most livable seats in Michigan. So there's going to be a lot of money pouring in, and you take corporate money. But do you have any idea who was spending money on it?
Yeah, it was the DeVosses.
Oh, the
I
bosses.
can't remember the name of the organization, but yeah, billionaires, um, we're a target now. I kind of feel honored at this point that they are afraid of me, and they should be. They should be afraid because I have what they have is money. We probably can't match their money. I'm not a billionaire. I don't have any billionaires in my circle, but I have people in my circle. The people that live here, the people that would go hard for me. So I know how to mobilize people. I know how to get people excited. I know how to hear people. I know how to communicate with people. And that's what they can't do. And they also support policies that don't support the people in my district. So they have that. I have people. People power always wins. And we're seeing it around the country, right? There's been many races that are outspent and it means nothing.
Was it kind of exciting to see an attack ad against you? I mean, obviously, it's a little weird, but was it kinda like, "Oh, wow, I've made it"?
Um Yeah, I was informed of this attack ad, and I wasn't sure I expected eventually we're gonna get attack ads. I didn't expect it this soon. Um, and I'm like, "Okay, so what do I do?" And the person said, "Consider this a really good sign." And then throughout the day, I decided, "Okay, I'm gonna share about this." And I shared it, and it was like, "Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations." And I was like, "Wow, who knew attack ad would be so much fun?"
Yeah. I mean, it does. I spent a bunch of years antagonizing, CEOs and billionaires in my job during the day, and, like, knowing that they know who you are, there's a thrill to that. I'm never gonna be rich. I'm never gonna be, CEO of a Fortune 500 company. I'm never gonna be one of those, I'm not gonna inherit billions of dollars like Betsy DeVos, but you can, tell the truth and make their lives difficult, and that's clearly what you're doing.
Yeah, that's right. And so the fact that billionaires are afraid of me flipping a district that is supposed to be held by the incumbent, um, he won it by 6 points. This should have been a given for him. It's no longer a given, is a great sign. And I think we have the momentum to really flip it.
Absolutely. Well, how can people find your campaign? Because I think some people wanna get involved now.
Yeah, it's katrinamanetta.com. We have a really great website to learn all about my values and, my issues. My social media is also at Katrina Manetta. I'm really active on Instagram, and then Facebook is Katrina Manetta for state representative. So yeah, there's all types of ways to connect with me online. I think that that's part of the vibe of the campaign is because I'm 32. We need to be online. I would like to see more public servants online.
I I gotta say it's not always easy to find them, or people who are running for office, or people who are in office trying to get in touch with them, trying to do this kind of work. It's oftentimes just like they don't have a website or their Facebook just is unresponsive. So, thank you for being, being online.
Yeah, well, that's where the people are.
It's true.
I know we have, like, a lot of older folks in my district too, and so we meet them at the doors, but we can't just do one or like, politics is largely in this era, you have to be everywhere all the time all at once.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of the world we live in, and if you're not gonna step up to that plate, then again, just don't run for office because that's the world we live in, and you need to step up to interact in the world that we live in. And so, yeah, I'm online, for those who are online, right? That's us, the younger folks, because again, we're the ones being left behind. If all we're paying attention to is the older folks, then the 40 and under crowd does not get listened to.
No, it's 100% right, and, clearly you are stepping up, so thank you for taking the time to do this. I'll let you get back to the campaign, but, yeah, it was great. Appreciate it.
It was really great, Jordan. Thank you so much for having me on, and I really enjoyed it. So thanks again.
Awesome. Take care.
I see you later. Bye.